So if
Yeah.
someone comes to you and they say, okay, my one thing, I got it. It's meditation.
Yep.
How do I start?
All right. So again, one habit at a time, but then shrink it down as small as possible. The tiniest possible one. James Clear, by the way, someone called out James Clear. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Actually, all of this, me, BJ Fogg, James Clear, are all in line with each other, and I
Great
love
book.
both of those guys. So definitely good people to read. But so meditation, um, as small as possible. So what most people want is like, I want an hour-long meditation practice, or 45 minutes, or half an hour. And I would say with meditation, as small as possible. So I've actually recommended to people 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
they're
good.
like, well, 2 minutes, I'm not going to get my Zen in 2 minutes. Right? And I'm like, no, you're not. You're actually just forming a habit. And like you said, that self-trust is what you're building. And if you can do 30 days of 2 minutes, all of a sudden you've started to build a lifetime of meditation habit and a lifetime of trust in yourself. And that's much more important, the long run. Like imagine yourself in a year from now, you can start with 30 minutes a day and not have any habit in 30 days, and definitely no habit in a year, and more like ruining of your self-trust. Or you can have a small habit in 30 days and a much more solid habit in a year from now of meditation. So let's say 2 minutes a day. The other thing is to pick a trigger. So something that will trigger you to do the habit. So when are you going to do the habit? So let's say first thing in the morning, right? Okay, great. Where? Let's say I'm going to meditate in my living room. Okay, so um, when you wake up, what's the first thing you're going to do? I'm going to go to my living room and meditate. No, you're probably going to go and pee or something like that, and maybe drink a glass of water. So whatever you would normally do first, you need to think through the physical actions. Are you going to check your phone? Because that's usually what people will do also, right? So do those, take care of my needs, but also like check my phone is the first thing. Will the meditation come before or after you check your phone? So it's that kind of granularity that we're looking for. Because what you really want is like, I wake up, I use the restroom, I drink a glass of water, and then I go straight to my cushion. And you should have a place where you meditate, and it should be right after you drink the water. And so it should be something that you already do when you first wake up. So look at what you normally do. Do I use the bathroom first, or do I start doing something else? And if it's your phone, if the first thing you do is look at your phone, put a big sign on your phone that says, go meditate first. And so you're like, okay, like, because you physically turn toward the phone and start picking it up. But if you have a sign there, a big sign like note to self, go meditate first, and maybe even put a quote from like Dogen or, whoever.
Yeah.
Um, and so you have this quote here, and you have a reason why it matters, and meditate for your kids or meditate for your mom. So you go and do it for someone else, and you have a thing that you do right after you look at that sign. And so it should be right after. And if there's something that you insert in between, then maybe that's not the actual trigger. So we're looking really granularly at what we're doing. We have a reminder, because we will always, the first thing that happens is we forget. So put a reminder, have a reason, and make a promise to someone else. So what is your deeper reason? Well, I would like to be peaceful. Okay, great. That's a good reason. Why do you want that? So we can go deeper. Like, why do I want peace? Well, so I can be happier. Great. That's by itself reason enough. But is there another reason you want that? Well, if I'm happier, I'll be nicer to my family, my loved ones. I'll be more focused at work. I'll be nicer to my customers. Maybe there's more that's available to you once you've found peace. And so looking at that, like, oh, actually, I'm doing it for a whole community of people. If I can walk a path of peace, maybe my mom will, maybe my sister will, and they need it so much more than I do. But if I can't find that peace, then why do I try and prescribe it to them, right? So having a deeper reason that is about more than just your physical comfort or like some kind of like short-term happiness. So having that reason, promising it to someone else, and then going and moving into it. The other thing that's really important is some kind of positive feedback. Meditation can be a very difficult first habit, because when people go and sit for 30 minutes, it can be actually very confusing. It can be an unhappy situation where they're facing things they don't want to face. They're bored. They're like, oh, why this is useless. And so that's negative feedback that is giving them reason not to go there tomorrow. And so what is the positive feedback? And so a lot of times for meditation, what I'll do is have some kind of gratitude. Like, I'm grateful that I sat down. What is so great about sitting down here? Actually, it's a beautiful moment and I get to pay attention to it. And I feel peace, which I wouldn't have had if I went on my phone. And I'm really grateful that I'm practicing and building up self-trust. And I feel that trust is deepening. So all of this is positive feedback, but also like I get to tweet maybe is another one, or like check in with, Insight Timer or whatever you check in with, or have a little checklist where you get to like check it off. Those kinds of things are so small, but they're actually really powerful, positive feedback. So that little check mark really can be a big positive feedback.
That's very nice. Thank you. I think, understanding the reason for why you want to do something is really important, and the benefits of doing it. All the ancient meditation manuals, they often start with what are the benefits of meditating. That's like the first part of the conversation, and then why you would want that, and why you're making effort for that. So that's really nice. Since we've been talking about some of the literature out there on habits, I was wondering if you're a proponent of Keystone habits and how you might decide what is the habit that you should, if you're going to pick one, how you decide amongst all those 10 things you wanted, which one you should pick.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do believe that some habits unlock others. It's almost like a video game where like I get this skill and then all of a sudden I can unlock a whole bunch of other skills. Absolutely. I don't believe that it's set for every single person, but there are some that definitely really help. Meditation is one. Again, meditation done right can unlock the others. I think, again, people tend to do it too long. They like really like suffer through it and get negative feedback, or they get super bored. And then, so all of that, if you're doing it that way, it won't actually stick and you won't unlock anything. But if you can do it in a way that feels really affirming, it feels peaceful or something, gratitude. So all of this positive stuff, it starts to unlock that, as the power of like awareness, which unlocks so much. If you don't have awareness, you can't change so many other habits. So awareness is deeply powerful for all habit change. If I want to exercise, well, why am I not exercising? What's coming up for me right before the exercise session, right? I want to stop procrastinating. Well, why am I procrastinating? What emotion am I feeling? What's the thought process? What's my narrative? All of that is impossible. It's completely inaccessible if we haven't started to practice mindfulness in some form. Meditation is one. Yoga is another one that's basically meditation, right? But it's a way that people can access meditation in a way that feels very positive. And there can be a class and a teacher, and so that can be very supportive. Another one that I found really powerful is journaling, because it actually is bringing awareness. It brings awareness afterward, but the amazing thing about that, so if you journal at the end of the day, like, how did my day go? Well, I meant to be grateful during the day and I didn't. So reviewing the day at the end of the day or at some point during the day helps you to then bring awareness to the next day. Like, oh, I was supposed to be grateful more yesterday and I forgot completely. How will I remember tomorrow? I'll have little signs out, little Buddhas all over the place or something like that. Or little phone reminders or a lock screen or, another person to remind me. And so through the journaling process, we actually get much, much better at other habits.
I was thinking you get, you choose one, but you might get others for free, right? So for example, you chose to give up smoking, but then you developed a habit of meditation. Or you might choose journaling and you find yourself doing gratitude as part of that.
Yeah.
So you might get a few for free as well, right?
That's
Or am I cheating?
It's a cheat thing. So I say that I like that you're bringing humor to it, which is great. Totally bring humor to all of our stuff, but definitely don't try and pack a bunch of habits into one habit. I would just caution against it. You could try it, But at the end of it, so the problem is that at the end of a failed habit experiment, and all of these are just experiments that we can learn from and get better at. But at the end of a failed habit experiment, what a lot of people, I would say 90% of people do, maybe 99, is they get discouraged and beat themselves up. So it's that self recrimination, self-hatred, self-criticism, but also just like discouragement, like, oh, I just lost all motivation. And
Yeah.
so those are, if we have awareness, we can bring like, oh, I'm discouraged. Like, how curious. But that's
Yeah.
not what most people do, is they get motivated, demotivated, and then they don't go back.
Yeah.
So what we want, so another really helpful habit is self-compassion. And so even like at any little failure, if we can just love ourselves and be compassionate with how we're feeling, and again, mindfulness meditation is a great, actually, it's another way to get 2-in-1, is to do
Yeah.
compassion meditations in your meditation session.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's great. But yeah, what most people do afterward is they'll beat themselves up and get demotivated. And so a really good one is to be compassionate, and then self-encouragement is another one. Like, hey, at least you gave this a shot and you got something out of it. I believe a lot of wisdom traditions are actually ways to just encourage ourselves. Like, the obstacle is the path. Well, that's an encouraging way when you're in the middle of discouragement, to like stick with the path, right?
Yep.
And so there's a lot of wisdom in it, but a lot of it is just like, oh, I'm just going to encourage myself that there's like all the wisdom is coming. You know, all of these kinds of things are ways to encourage ourselves, and that's really, really important in a failed experiment.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting for me again, because in the ancient texts on how to develop a meditation habit, the first thing is know why you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is, encouragement, encouraging yourself.
Yeah,
And it seems like
yeah,
there's this thing like this, developing these habits, there's this trust with yourself. With that, you have to be honest. If you're going to be honest with yourself, you got to be compassionate with yourself as well, right? So
yeah.
there's this
They,
process.
that's so important, is that they have to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like, you're building trust, and the way that you do that is with compassion. One of the things that you start to trust yourself is that when you fail, when you mess up, you're not going to just beat yourself up again. And so if you see yourself beating yourself up, you're like, oh, maybe I should stop flogging myself, because that's never helpful. I've actually got into discussions with many people about how helpful it is to criticize yourself and to feel guilty and shame and all of these things that people feel are useful tools for changing behavior. They're not.
Mm.
And so trust needs to come with that compassion. And the problem is, in our society, Western society, we have been passed down the incredible wisdom that if we beat ourselves up, we can change our behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's completely false. It's a complete myth.